Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our City Council meeting today. Appreciate you all being here. We will, first of all, I might just mention Councilman Hughes will be joining us a little later. He's delayed with a work thing, and so he'll be here a little later. We would like to begin, if we could, by asking Caden and the other Cub Scouts from PAC, what number? 1829? Was that a good year? Okay, very good. So from PAC 1829, and Caden is going to lead us in the pledge. Will you come forward, gentlemen? Come forward and face the audience just by the podium right there. And then tell us what we need to do, Caden, okay? Just speak loudly and they'll listen to you.
May the audience please rise. Please lead me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Caden. Appreciate it. Appreciate you being here and your scout leaders as well. Stay as long as you want. That's for all of us. We have some other scouts over there in the back. Wave to us. What troop are you from, or unit?
Troop 399, Middleton, which is St. George.
Very good. Glad to have you here. Let's see. Also might just mention, we're going to have the invocation here from Elder Jim Hetrick. He's with the Community of Christ. Appreciate you being here, Elder. Please come forward now.
Mr. Mayor and the council members, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to share a prayer with you. I'm humbled and happy to be here. If you'd bow with me, please. Heavenly Father, we come together at this council meeting at the beginning that we might seek your guidance, your blessing, your wisdom, that the decisions made and the difficulties of the decisions that might have to be made, we realize that it's not perhaps going to please everyone in all the decisions. But we also realize, Father, that it's not our own personal agendas, nor our personal ideas and hopes that are your will. So, Father, I pray that you will bless the council member, the mayor and council, and you would bless all those here with the wisdom and to know what is right to do your will and have the strength to make those decisions and implement them. Bless them, Father, I pray, in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elder. We appreciate you being here, and we appreciate the Interfaith Council for coordinating our invocations. Thank you, Elder Hetrick. Also would like to mention that we have the last day. Okay. We also have tomorrow is the last day of early voting, and that is from 1 to 5 tomorrow, right here, right behind you, here in City Hall. And we've had a fair number of people voting, and we've had a fair number of absentee or mail-in ballots returned, so that's good. But please get the word out. Tell your friends. Come vote for this primary election. If you don't get out tomorrow, then the primary election is Tuesday, the 11th, and that'll be in pretty much your regular polling locations throughout the city and county, for that matter, and the other municipalities that have elections. Okay. I think I've got all the preliminary things. Anything else, Christina, that I'm missing? Gary, anything else preliminarily? Okay, we have first item on the agenda is we have comments from the public. I have received 2 forms of people who would like to make comments. First, Jerry Campbell, and then after him, Archie Iverson. We have a full agenda today, so I think after those two comments, we'll move to the bid openings, Gary. So this is the other Jerry Campbell. Yeah.
Yeah. Councilmen and women, my name's Jerry Campbell, the other junior, whatever, other Campbell. I just have an idea or thought that I would just like to throw out to you. I have a 3-year-old son who was diagnosed with autism 4 months ago. And I realized the city is being cognizant of special needs children with a new park. Well, over July 4th, I took my son to the Vernon Worthen event. And there were numerous rides there. And he doesn't understand waiting in line. And he had major meltdowns, and we had to leave early. So I'm kind of involved in the autism world, and I came across an article about major theme parks having special needs lines for special needs children, and I thought this would be a great idea to bring to you. I have a list here of some major themed parks that use this, and there's numerous ways to do it, but I just wanted to throw it out there.
Okay.
I don't know what else to say. I could go into more detail, but I don't think
Just,
this
yeah,
is-
give us that if you want. If you want to give that, do you have that copy of that?
I have
If you want to
numerous
give that
copies.
to our city recorder, and then we can look those over and certainly consider that.
Disneyland is one of them, and they do it by an appointment, so it's fair to the other children waiting in line. Other theme parks use bracelets and little cards that give them access to the lines.
Okay?
So anyway, I thought it'd be a good idea to bring to you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Jerry. Archie?
Mr. Mayor, and
Will you pull that microphone down?
what?
Pull that microphone a little closer to you there, Mr. Iverson. Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
Couple of years ago, when Jimmy Hughes got into the city council, I talked to the city council several times trying to get them to change the city codes, because the city codes do not, some of them at least, do not go along with the Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution is the master law, and all other laws should abide or go by it. And like, since we've had code officers, that's been about 15 years, they have harassed me all the time. And I am so tired of it. And I want them to leave me alone and my property. And also, before code officers, things were a lot more peaceful in St. George than before we had them guys to go around trying to look for trouble. That's what they do. They just go around looking for stuff to cause trouble about. Like, I've got some pictures here of cars, and you can't tell that they're not, if any of them's not got that little sticker on them. And we should have the right to have our property on our, like a car on our property without it being licensed, as long as we don't take it out on the road.
You know, that specific question, I think we are going to look at. That's one of the things that is on our list that our committee's been looking at. So that specific issue, you may see a change on. We're actually making a change to our ordinance tonight, a little bit later, in terms of entering property to make sure it's completely correct in terms of being in harmony with state and federal law. But generally speaking, our code enforcement officers are not really there looking for trouble. They're really trying to help us make sure we keep St. George nice and where we live so close in proximity to each other, you know, we really have to kind of, that's why cities have the opportunity to zone and to have a nuisance ordinance and to enforce those, is to try to be able to live together in harmony. So.
Well, I think they cause more trouble than they cause harm.
And you know, you're entitled to your opinion, but then we get other calls from people saying, Mayor, council members, will you please enforce, you know, the laws, because we have, Councilwoman Randall, she knows something about this, we have friends and family that have neighbors that are not keeping up, and their properties that can be hazardous to health. And so there are some things that are safety and health hazards. There are other things that are just annoyances, but you know, we get both sides. So what we're trying to do is strike a balance that's fair and hopefully reasonable.
A car that's sitting on somebody's property that you can't see anything wrong with it unless you go up and look to see if they got a sticker on their license. How does that hurt anybody?
It depends, but I agree with you, and that's why we're looking at that one.
And
I think
then-
you'll see a change on that one, but there's a lot of other things that probably would be a little bit more detrimental.
And there's that where the code officers can come onto our property. That code, I can't remember the numbers of it now, but I had talked to the council 2 years ago about it, and they said they'd look at it, try to see if they could change it, but where it said that those code officers can come onto our property anytime they want, that's the way I understood it.
Under certain circumstances
And
only,
that
and you'll see
they
that
can even
clarified.
come in our buildings, which is our home.
Yeah.
And I don't think they should be able to. They should either have a real good reason to come on our property and get a search warrant first. And
Right, and that's what they would do.
and they, anyway,
But they-
I have had code officers get after me about having some boards stacked by the side of a mobile home, and about the hose being where they had washed their car and the hose not being rolled up, and just ignorant little things to try to make our lives miserable. And
Well,
I
Archie,
thi-
we'd be
I thi-
happy, I'll tell you what, we don't have time to probably go through the long list that you might have, but I would suppose that we could offline meet with you about anything and everything that you feel like is inappropriate, and then we'll review that.
okay,
But yeah, there's some of those that, again, we may not all agree on everything, but there's some
Yeah.
things I think we would all agree, or most of us would agree. We want to have a nice St. George. We want to be thoughtful of our neighbors, and so we're not trying to go out and you know,
Well,
find work for these guys. They do a tough job.
I know I wouldn't be one if you can hire me to be one. And I forgot what I was going to say now, so,
I have that effect on people.
okay.
Well, we appreciate it. We
Yeah.
will look at it. We'd be happy to look at it if you want to talk with one of our.
I would like to have you try to preserve our freedom and to be able to live in peace as much as possible.
We each-
I'm getting to be an old man and I ain't got much longer. I'd like to live the rest of it in peace, not have them guys getting after me all the time, sending me he sent me a nasty letter I got yesterday, threatening me. They're gonna fine me if I don't make somebody else do what they want.
Well, we'd be happy to have a meet with you so we can explain it.
And for me to make somebody, like I lease this property to somebody, and then as long as they pay the rent, that property, what they do is their right. And if I go move a vehicle off from it, they'll get me for theft.
I'll tell you what, our legal people will walk through that with you.
Okay.
They know better than I do what the rights are of property owners versus renters, but we'll go through that with you.
Okay,
Thanks,
you,
Archie.
Mayor.
We do
And all
appreciate
of
you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, I didn't have any other forms turned in. So, did you have anything else, Gary? Okay, then we will proceed with our agenda.
All right, we'll go to bid openings then, Mayor. First is item 2A is awarded bid for the purchase of steel poles and structures for the new addition to our Flood Street 69 kV line, transmission line. You can see on the agenda that the recommendation is to award $110,241 to TAP as the low bid.
Any questions, council, on this? This is within budget, it's part of the plan.
It's part of your current budget, right?
Well, it's amazing, Mayor, that you have a series of bids on this tab over here that some are double that. So
Yep.
I'm sure if Connie were here, she would confirm, and Gary can, that they meet the specifications for our requirements.
That's correct.
So I'll move that we award the steel pole and structure requirements and for that 69 kV transmission line to TAP for their submittal to the price of $110,241.
Second.
You have a motion by Gil and a second by Joe. You notice they rounded that off for us.
Oh, I love it, no pennies.
Any questions or comments on the motion?
I have a question on my own motion.
Okay. Do you want to modify it?
No, I just want to make sure that includes delivery.
It does.
Okay.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I think I heard a Cub Scout say aye.
Yeah.
Good job.
That's good.
Okay.
Next item is award of an engineering contract to Rosenberg and Associates. As you're aware, you awarded a bid for the Canyon View Drive realignment project to Sunrock at a previous meeting. This is the engineering, inspection, surveying, and related services for that project, $27,905. Staff has recommended approval.
You're very aware of this project, Council. Any questions? Again, this is the engineering, surveying, and related services.
Just a question that will include the management during the
Construction
construction.
management, yes.
Okay.
Mayor, the only thing, and maybe Connie has it, is that sometimes we have an entire list of all of their requirements, and today we just have the one page. So I'd just like to make sure that there's all of that legal backing up, like if they go out and survey an area and then that night somebody goes through there and pulls all the survey stakes, what's that going to cost, or will it cost anything? Things like that is normally there's a packet, a contract, and I didn't.
Oh, we
see
have
it.
that contract, so we're happy to circulate that. It's a normal construction contract like we do, so it has all those things in there that you've seen in the past. I don't know why it isn't attached.
And it's okay that it's
So-
not here. I just want to make sure
Right.
one exists.
Okay?
Any other questions? Ready for a motion?
I will make a motion to award the bid to Rosenberg Associates for the Canyon View Drive realignment in the amount of $27,905.
Second.
Motion by Michelle and a second by Gil. Any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next item is a construction management agreement as well. Excuse me, it's not construction management, it's design services for an area of the city by Indian Hills Drive. We've just finished, as you've probably been on the road, finished up some improvements along that stretch of road. And to the western side of that road, in the past, we've had some issues with drainage, and so we've like to recommend that we hire Bowen Collins to look at that section between 210 West and Indian Hidden Bend Drive to see what we can do to possibly help with the with the drainage in that particular area to keep our road intact and to keep it, that property, some of it's lower and it's kind of a mess right along the road. So we'd like to at least look at it and see what the alternatives are to see if we can address that flooding, those flooding issues in that area.
Comes down the hill and across the street and goes in their drains
Right.
and in their backyards.
There's a
Yeah.
bunch of drains there, but we're not sure it all fits together.
Yeah.
That's what this design would be, and then we'd bring it back to you, show you what they found, and then try to fund it.
Well, we know Bowen and Collins, they do a great job. Council, any questions?
Do we know the amount?
Yes, it's
45.
45.
45,360?
Yeah.
Quick question, Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
They reference here some of the drainage that comes off the Whisper Ridge area and some detention basins that, of course, may fill and then they slow down the flow. And it talks about them working on the east side of Indian Hills Drive. And I just was wondering if they had any provision in here, because there's quite a few petroglyphs along that area. And I know that in the past, we've been sensitive to that, and we've saved some, and I just want to make sure they take that into consideration, because if they're going to go up into a draw and they see something there that would be nicely preserved, either over a demonstration garden or somewhere, it'd be nice if they were to save that instead of just roll it down the hill and destroy it.
Well, I think that certainly, Councilman Almquist will come out of the design. This is just, obviously, just looking at the alternatives, and if one of those alternatives would involve having to relocate some of those rocks, and we certainly would love to have them in some of our parks and that, but we all recognize there are some real gems of archaeology there and history, so we'll watch that.
Well, even if they only had to take them a mile down the road to the All Abilities Park, I'm sure
Sure.
it would be an interesting discussion piece.
Right. We'll make sure as part of that, Jay Sandberg here is the project engineer. He's been in the back. I'm sure he'll make sure that they look at that and address that as part of the overall design we're looking at.
I'm ready to make a motion, Mayor.
Okay, go for it.
I move that we award the contract to Bone Collins and Associates for engineering design services for Indian Hills storm drain improvements. There's a proposal in here which I would like to make part of the motion as well, and for the amount of $45,360.
Second.
Motion by Gill and a second by Betty. Any further discussion on the issue? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Gary, if I could pause, there was one person who didn't realize they had to fill out a form. So Diane, I'm going to let you come forward and speak on the topic that you came prepared for. She had mentioned it to me earlier. She wanted to, so sorry I didn't see you there.
I apologize for not submitting a form.
It's okay.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, the City Council, for allowing me this time.
State your name, Diane.
Yeah,
Yes.
Diane Robinson.
I'm Diane Robinson, and I'm here to represent myself. I would like to propose a way that will allow private homes to be used as vacation rentals. At the same time, ensure the neighbors' rights are not infringed upon. As I read the article in the St. George Spectrum on July the 10th, I went through that and read that with great detail, and I saw that both sides were basically equally represented. There were a few things that came to my mind as I read that article, and I'd like to share that with you. One thing that was addressed there is the health issue about utilizing homes versus hotels. It's a competitive market, and obviously those people who would like to use their homes as a rental home have to keep the place clean, pristine actually, on the outside as well as the inside, and landscaping care. Otherwise, the owner would lose potential business. One of the other issues is that the competition with the hotels and motels. To me, it's more of a lifestyle issue. because people who are renting homes want the lifestyle that is different from a motel or hotel environment. They want a home-like setting that brings together members of their families in larger groups and an opportunity to bond together where they don't have that as much in a hotel. Vacation homes typically can accommodate multiple families, and others want to gather as friends in a comfortable, enjoying setting to visit and as to enjoy southern Utah. Santa Clara is allowing vacation rentals under certain conditions. And similar to that, it's understood that some other municipalities are working towards that direction too. As our communities in St. George are allowing vacation potential tax revenue, these are the recommendations that I have. Citizens should be able to use their property as they wish as long as it doesn't infringe, like I mentioned, on their neighbor's property rights. And how can we do this? With the following. With a business license. And regulated, obviously, something similar to the way the dog issues are taken care of. It doesn't need to be complicated. Written specific, I know that sounds funny, but I mean, I'm just trying to compare it to the responsibilities and the regulations for issuing a dog license. Written specific rental policies regarding parking, noise control, disturbance, local property manager, parking, and occupancy limited based on beds in the home. And also, with the transient and sales tax, this will also help boon the business, this will also boon the tax revenue for southern Utah, even though I know it's only, about 20 cents per thousand. I can't remember what it is there, but anyway. So my recommendation is that we look at the opportunity to open the homes that are wanting to do vacation rentals for the argument that they keep their homes up, they're regulated, they have a business license, they have local managers, and they are set to a standard that is required by policy and code enforcement. I appreciate the time with you today,
Okay.
and I thank you very much.
Thanks, Diane. One thing just to mention, and Diane, you already know this, but we do allow vacation home rentals under certain criteria already since 2007. And, we are considering this, and we're considering the other model, kind of the stay-at-home, Airbnb, rent out part of your home model. We're looking at what other cities are doing. We had a significant, about hour-and-a-half long meeting just on this a month ago, almost. And so we're looking at others such as even Philadelphia, San Francisco, New York. It's funny because Salt Lake City called our city attorney the next day and said, how are you guys going to do this? We've got this problem. We don't know what to do. So cities across the country are dealing with these issues or trying to. And, there are other people in this very room that, Diane, you could talk to who are having a very frustrating experience with vacation home rental that is not a good situation. And it's really kind of ruining their neighborhood. That's our concern, is we have a zone, what's called a resort overlay zone, that people can do now, operate these kinds of things, bed and breakfast, for example. But that doesn't apply in every neighborhood. So we're wrestling with it. We hope we can do something here in the next few months, because in the meantime, there are people, again, in this room who are saying, please enforce the ordinance that you have. So there's both sides of this, and as our elder said who prayed for us today, you know, we're not going to please everyone on this topic and other topics. We understand, but we'll try to do the best we can. So thanks for your comment. And I know there are others that may like to talk about it. This will be an ongoing discussion here, and we will take comments at our next meeting, our next first Thursday meeting in September on this or any other issue that's not on that current agenda. So thank you. And Gary, I think we can move to our public hearings if you want to.
Okay, Mayor, I'll turn it over to the planning staff to present these public hearings.
First item is a public hearing for a general plan amendment, and it reads, public hearing to consider a general plan amendment to change from medium-density residential to commercial on approximately 0.6 acres, generally located at the northwest corner of intersection 300 North and 500 West. Bruce Cunningham is the applicant. And this shows the property. It's really three properties. 1, 2, 3. The applicant who's brought forth this general plan amendment is concerned with these two properties. And the general plan today is this greenish color as MDR, and you can see by it is commercial, this reddish color. And the zoning is R2 currently. And this shows some vintage trailers that the applicant would like to go through the general plan amendment to change the property to allow for commercial. He would then have to return back with a zone change and then go through site plan review with staff if that was to be approved. So I do have a lot of details here on the project. It's in your packet. I want to try to focus on the fact that this is, at this time, a general plan amendment. We do show details, and there can be questions, and we spend a lot of time talking about it at Planning Commission. But the real question is, should this be able to go from medium density to commercial? I might mention that staff did suggest on this property here, it's an R2 zone, and it's medium density residential, but it's an existing commercial business. And the applicant is trying to turn the three properties, the two he's interested in and this one, into going to commercial, and that would definitely benefit 528 West and bring it more into conformance. That really concludes staff's comments unless you would like to ask us to go through more details. There's a lot of renderings in here. The application is in here, but I'm trying to stay focused on this request at this time is for a general plan amendment.
Council, any questions for Ray? The Planning Commission voted to recommend this, correct?
I'm sorry, Mayor.
That's what I see.
Let me go to the page 4. And the motion the Planning Commission recommends the City Council to amend the general plan from MDR, medium density residential, to commercial on 0.6 acres. Property is generally located and gives the address involving 3 lots. So it was that simple as to recommend approval of the general plan amendment. And again, the property, if this is recommended for approval, they'd have to come back for a zone change, a
Correct.
site plan review, and all those other issues.
Any questions, Council? This does require a public hearing, so if there are no questions, I'll open the public hearing at this time for any who may have come to express their comments on this item, which is number 3A on the agenda. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Come back to you, Council.
Mayor, I'd like to move that we consider this general plan amendment from medium-density residential to commercial on approximately 0.6 acres, generally located at the northwest corner of the intersection of 300 North and 500 West.
Any
Period.
second?
Second.
Motion by Betty and a second by Michelle. Any further discussion on the issue or the motion?
I just have a question for Ray. Does that 0.6 acres, includes the auto shop that's already there, as far as a change.
I'm sorry, Councilman Bocat, I got distracted. This is included in the general plan amendment,
Okay,
the commercial.
thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, this is an ordinance requiring a roll call vote. So all in favor, starting with Betty, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, which item is this? Item 3B is a request to consider a zone change from planned development commercial residential mixed use to PD residential on 6.04 acres to accommodate a townhouse development project consisting of, they have changed this from what went to Planning Commission. They are now requesting 13 dwelling structures with an overall count of 50 units, but they would like the option for 4 additional units in the future for a total of 54 units when a second access is constructed on to Dixie Drive. The applicant is Mr. Dennis Garr. This is called Sunbrook Hollow. The representative, like I said, is Mr. Dennis Garr. The area is 6.04 acres. The address is located at approximately 415 South Dixie Drive behind the existing Moore Business Forum building. The current zone is PDR, like we said, commercial residential. General plan does show this as medium density residential with a density between 5 to 9 dwelling units per acre. Again, the proposal is for the 50 with the additional 4 units if a second access is constructed. The density for 50 units would be 8.3 units per acre. 54 would be 8.9, which would fall in line with the general plan. It is on the high end, but it does fall within the general plan. They have provided, they are required to provide 2 parking stalls per unit, one of which is covered, which they do provide, and they are required to provide 3, a guest stall for every 3 units, which would be 18 guest stalls, and the way I counted 22 that they are providing. They are required to provide 30% of landscaped open space area. They are providing 53, so they do meet that. The project will be served by a 50-foot private access easement to the property, and I think that's to the property. They did submit a color board right there for the site itself. And I do, let's see, and they are, so I'll just kind of go through this. Let's see. Let me see how this works here. Okay, so here's the site right here. It's right there on Dixie Drive behind the Moore Business Building. It's this 6.8 acres right here. Again, here's the general plan, shows this as business park with this now being designated as medium density residential. Here is the site that they're proposing. So these right here are the covered parking stalls. The ones adjacent to them would then be the uncovered parking to provide the 2 stalls per unit. And then these would be the guest stalls right here. This, they did show an access here. This is not going to take place anymore. When they went to Planning Commission, they were requesting this as an emergency access so that they could get 4 additional units. However, as I indicated, they pulled that request, and they'll pull off one of these buildings until at such time, their request is until at such time a second access is provided to Dixie Drive, in which they would like that option to then construct those 4 additional units.
Wes?
Yes.
As I understand it, that additional access would be required in the future for the front parcel to be developed. Is that correct? As part of the PD?
That's what was shown in the original PD approval, is they had an access here with a right in, right out on that second access. Yeah, so that's what was part of the original approval.
Okay.
Yep. These are the renderings of what the building would look like, except for the garages would not be attached. They would be detached from the units themselves. Kind of a layout. Here's the site. So the access is over here. You come into this site. There are some existing trees right here that they would like to remain. Let me see if I can find this thing. So here's your access right here. There are some existing trees right along here that staff has asked that they remain to provide a buffer between the residential area over here. So they said they would keep those, and so they would add, staff has asked, maybe add some additional trees right in here to kind of give a buffer to that existing residential area. They have come back and said they would like to also maybe put some trees right along here to kind of buffer it from the existing building itself and kind of give the street more of a private street, kind of separate it from the residential portion of the property is what they're proposing to do. Let's see. They did, like I said, they did remove the request. At Planning Commission, it was recommended for denial. There was a 4-0-1 abstain that recommended denial. A lot of the concern was the secondary access into the Mathis Park. They weren't very comfortable with that, but the applicant, like I said, has pulled that off the table. There was a lot of concern about the existing traffic along Dixie Drive from some of the residents. I looked up on the state's UDOT's statistics page for Dixie Drive, and it has a traffic count of about 11,600 daily vehicles. And then, just for your information, a minor arterial, which Dixie Drive is, should handle up to about 20,000 vehicles. So they're well under what the road should be able to handle, but there was some concern about the amount of traffic on Dixie Drive.
Wes, do you know when that study was taken?
The latest that UDOT had was 2013. That was the latest statistical.
When did we open the bridge?
Cameron and
over-
I looked at that, and it looks like it was opened in 2012 or the first of 2013.
So you think that that was included after the flyover was built?
I do.
Think.
I do. That was one concern I had is, did it cover that time? And I believe it does cover when the new interchange was built. Again, with the trees, that was the other question, was just the trees here providing that buffer into the site. Anyways, I believe that's all. And the applicant is here.
Any questions, first of all, of staff, of Wes? Joe?
If the time came that that other access is there, which I hope would be sooner than later, do they have to come back to get permission to build that other building?
I don't believe so.
If you approve it as it was presented tonight, then they would not have to, because they would be in compliance if that other access is constructed. Then they could go ahead. They'd have to apply for a building permit like they normally would, but they would not have to come back to you if
Okay.
you approve it that way.
So in other words, if we approve it, we're approving 54 units with the stipulation that there has to be an additional access?
We would prefer that you approve 50 with the...
That's what I'm trying to find out.
Yes. We would prefer that the motion would be you approve the 50 and allow them to go up to 54, add 4 additional units if that access is constructed and they have the ability to use that.
Okay. And I have another question. There was some concern about the property owner at the front there about losing some of his parking spaces. I think they got that resolved with him, but I'm not positive.
No, it does right through here. It does impact some of his parking stalls. They will lose some parking.
Is he still going to be in compliance the way that building's currently used?
That's a good question. I'm not sure he would be. I guess we haven't gone in there and looked at all what he has in there as far as his uses and so forth. But he would lose those stalls along that south area right there.
But I would point out that the plan that was approved overall, including this piece of property for the PD, included those accesses, and so that was part of the plan that they originally submitted and got approved, that also acknowledged that there would be those roadways and it would impact the parking.
Okay, I'm not sure my question's answered, but we'll go from there. Are we going to come back and say? I'll answer that when you open it up. Okay, because he's, can he come in there and say, well, you're creating a problem for me? That's my question.
Okay. But just so you're aware, they would provide entrances into the existing parking area here and here so that they would access there.
There wouldn't be as many stalls.
Right, you would lose some of the stalls.
And I just to clarify though, and I know that it'll be addressed by the property owner, but this entire piece was included in the original PD proposed by the property owner with
The access?
with the accesses and with the residential uses along with the commercial uses that are there.
But haven't we changed that access to be farther away from the property line to protect the trees that are already there?
I don't believe so. I think the only thing that changed from the original was where it tied into Dixie Drive, because we wanted it lined up with that street. That's what I recall, is that this was changed, but I think this section right here was not changed, a lot.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Joe? Council, any other questions?
Just maybe a clarification for me. The current zoning is PD commercial, right? PD residential commercial. Right, and so did it establish a density for this parcel of property? So what was the density under the approved process right now, the approved zone change that's on record right now? How many units would be built on this?
I can't quite remember, but the original was like, so you had like units here, and this was the focal point. It was an assisted living, and I think it was in the upwards of the 150 range is what it was approved.
I believe it's 136 from,
Okay.
yeah, I have a.
So in the rear, so this project is actually a third density than what could be built today. Okay.
Any other questions, comments, council? Would the applicant like to make any comments at this point? Would you like to? Okay. So, Cub Scouts, thanks for being here. Have a good night. There we go. Nice salute there. Love the Cub Scouts. Okay, so what I'll do at this time is open the public hearing for any who have come to express comments on this item, number 3B on your agenda. If you'll just state your name for the record when you come up. Christina will get you.
Marvin Blosh, I represent MBA Properties and Sunbrook Ranch, LLC. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council. I believe you heard my comment, and the answer for Gary was 140 units were originally shown on this particular piece of property on the original plan. When it was reapproved recently, about a year ago, we brought it back with some changes, and the 136 number you heard over here represents the new plan for the front that was approved about that time. I would like to state that I am in favor of this project. I think this is a good project and represents a nice improvement for the area. Obviously, it isn't what I planned or would have liked to have done, but I think it will be an added improvement. Having said that, there are several things that do impact me and that I need to be very clear about, and I have prepared a written message.
Christina, yeah.
And it is brief, so I'll just go through it carefully. The Sunbrook Hollow developers currently enjoy a 50-foot non-exclusive right-of-way that will become their access to their development as provided in their site plan. The installation of said road will cause a very real disturbance to my tenants at Sunbrook Ranch, as well as effectively bisecting my remaining property. If you look at the access that is there now, which was required by the city as a result of the development on the west side of Dixie Drive, when that went in, their access got moved, their access went to where now our new access has been moved to. When that event happened, it now bisects my property, not in halves, but you can see there's a 1 acre lot that remains on the lower side of that plot plan. I don't know how to work this thing.
There you go.
There's about a 1 acre lot right there. And that road is currently right here against the property line. My word, it looks like I drank, doesn't it?
Hey, you're doing better than West.
The original driveway went right against the property line. When they realigned, they put it up here. That was kind of an adverse action against us because it did kind of bisect the property. That being said, we've been trying to live with that. My purpose in being here tonight is to clarify and make certain that my current access rights for my front properties are verified and fully recognized by the city with the following stipulations. Number one, no action taken here on the development or approval of the above referred to property shall adversely affect my ability to access or develop either my remaining south lot, that's the 1 acre I just pointed out, or the north lot where the warehouse is now located and the other improvements that were approved about a year ago would go on. That's the other 136 units. Number two, the current access to my north parcel shall remain unaltered at the entrance to Dixie Drive. So as you come off of Dixie, you turn left to go in and access our self-storage, our RV, all of the offices, the jiu-jitsu, all of those kinds of things, as well as all the way along the existing road. We access all of those points along there. It's continuous access. So anything that's done here, unless I have continuous access along that road, will be in effect not disregarding, but will lessen my rights therein. So I'd like to maintain that access as we come right off Dixie Drive. That's important for the existing tenants, as well as at least 2 additional entrances. One I would suggest would be about here and one back here. And those are shown on the plan that was approved about a year ago for the remaining 136 units. I have a copy of it here tonight. I'd be happy to pull it up if somebody could work this machinery. As well as was mentioned, the reconfiguration of the parking. To answer your question, we will come into non-conformance with the building of this road. They will throw it into non-conformance. But that plan that I just mentioned that was approved a year ago does show a reconfiguration of that parking on the south side. The lot has to be totally done. It can't be 45-degree angled doubled parking. We have 4 bays now. It'll become 90-degree and just two rows of parking.
So it would just be a painting, repainting,
No. It goes from 45-degree, and they waste 2 full depths of stalls. And to regain it, I have to go 90 degrees, and I go wider on both sides. Does anybody know how to work this machinery up here? If I had a plan to show?
Joe will do that for you.
Is there any way to get this on the screen? You could pass that.
If you've got a hard copy, we could pass it around.
The area that they're talking about. Let me pass it to the council. Okay, this is the impact of what the road would do. So it negates that. And then we have to show new. Actually, that doesn't show what I just said. That shows the impact well.
Could I just clarify?
Yes, sir.
If that plan that you're referring to is the one that referred to the 136 units? That's the
Correct.
current plan? Okay.
Right. And so that does not show the realignment. The realignment is shown on a previous one that we had here. I think it was the original one that was approved. And it shows elongated parking along the whole site at 90-degree angles. And it will re-achieve and bring me back into occupancy. But I have to build a new parking lot, make it wider, and redo the whole thing.
So you make it wider to the east or the west?
Both. It'll extend farther towards Dixie and farther to the east. Number 3, the reconstruction of this parking lot with additional new parking stalls to replace those lost in the new roadway to Sunbrook Hollow is crucial to maintaining the required number of stalls for our current tenants being in compliance with the city's parking regulations, as well as for future development. So it meets both those criteria. Again, the Sunbrook Hollow developers need to provide said access points. If they don't do that, then we will in effect suffer from non-access. Number 4, the developer of Sunbrook Hollow shall maintain continuous and full access to these points at all times during construction with minimal disruption to the Sunbrook Ranch tenants. I am willing to abandon the current westerly access, the one, it's really too short of a distance as you come off Dixie and turn left. In the future plans, when we develop, there's not enough distance there. So we need to be willing, in my opinion, to abandon that, which I'm willing to do when we develop the rest of the property. But in the interim, we need at least that and the 2 other spots to maintain our current business.
Would you move that to the north side of the property?
That one would disappear. Oh, you're asking about the right in, right out.
Well, I'm asking about if you eliminate that access.
If we eliminate that access, we would need the additional 2. Where we have continuous now, I'm willing to reduce it to 3. The existing plus 2 to the east.
All onto Dixie Drive?
No, they all come out onto this proposed private driveway and then onto Dixie. Okay. Number 4, I am willing to abandon the current westerly access. Okay. And finally, just an observation about the Planning Commission's restriction on the number of units that can be built on the Sunbrook Hollow property. While this development plan seems desirable and well laid out, and I agree it's nice and it works, it seems somewhat arbitrary and somewhat capricious to me that the Planning Commission's part to have limited them to only 54 units as St. George has other projects with only 1 access and 82 full residential units in it. So the number 50 that I keep hearing, and I've met with the planning staff, and this became a significant issue when we talked about the future, and recognizing that if we build another 140, 36 in front, obviously we have to do that right in, right out. But the number 50 is what I'm commenting on. You have other subdivisions in this city not 2 miles away from there with 82 units in it. So this number 50 seems to be somewhat arbitrary. Someone tagged it onto the fire marshal. We asked him 3 times, we emailed him, and we have not seen any reference to that specifically at this point. We don't know that that's a fire issue. Obviously, it is a density issue because the number 9 into 6 acres is 54. But I'm just saying this number 54 seems to keep coming up, and I don't see where it's in any ordinance other than it is an arbitrary number that's kind of been assigned and people are working around it. That's just an observation. Twin Creeks at Stonebridge is the other subdivision I'm talking about. No secondary access, no emergency access. And the Sunbrook Hollow people have both those. I thank you for your consideration tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I know this isn't my show.
Sean, I'd be interested for any legal comment or questions.
Well, and there are several on these. First of all, and I just want to make sure because I stepped out for a second, but you're still proposing the 2 accesses on Dixie Drive only, just the 2.
Onto Dixie Drive itself, that's correct. Yeah.
As far as number 1, I don't know if we want to take these one at a time. And generally, let's say that the city's role here is just to approve or deny or modify the request of the applicant. As far as enforcing whether or not you maintain that full rights to that easement, that's between you and the back property owner.
The issue is about access, excuse me, not about maintenance.
Okay, well, when I say maintain, I mean your rights as far as use goes.
Okay.
You threw out something that was very broad there. We would not get involved in any personal action that you 2 might have as far as that access goes.
On the other hand, though, you would not approve that with full back curbs so that I could not access my property.
Well, and so I would say that the standards, the building standards, construction standards for the city would apply, and that would also go for that piece of property that you were referring to. If you wanted to come in and develop that, whatever the current building codes and standards and setbacks are, that would affect your ability to
I don't think I made myself clear.
Okay.
If they
Maybe
put a
I
high
did not
back,
understand.
if they put a high back curb on the left side of that entire
Right.
driveway, we will be effectively cut off from any access.
Well, but you could have a drive, and that's what you're asking for, is access to that,
Drive
to that
access.
roadway. And that would be in accordance, another thing I would say would be accordance to our access policies. And whether or not that is something that the easement allows, that would be between you. But the high back curb would not prevent you from developing that property, because you can always put a curb cut and a drive in there. So that, but we can't say now that you can do everything you want to do, because we don't know what you're proposing for that. When you come in for that.
Again, I'm talking
then-
about current access for current tenants.
Well, and the current tenants should remain, should still have the access. But that part there is between you and the property owner as far as the easement goes. But there's certainly, we certainly have no objection to you, your current tenants and your property being accessed from that roadway,
Well, thanks.
just in accordance to any policies and procedures we have.
Well, this is a private street, number
Right.
one, so, you know, the access is off this private street is strictly subject to the easement as it's written between the two parties that are involved there. So, to me, that's a civil issue between Mr. Blosh and the people behind and the owner of the easement, because that easement's not ours.
Right.
We're not going to maintain it. We're not going to, do
Construct, be
anything with
involved.
it. All we're going to do is suggest where the alignment comes, if the development's approved, how the alignment works along to access the back parts of the property, which has already been determined on the west side, or east side, excuse me. So, that, I know that Mr. Blosh has got real concerns about his access off that easement, but I would hope that whoever structured this between the parties took care of that in the
No,
easement, because it's not the city's not a party to the easement.
I understand that, Gary.
Okay.
The only issue here is that it's silent on those issues. It's a non-exclusive usage, so we would have all the rights we would typically have.
Right,
I
of
think would be
access,
fine.
and so I think
All the
Yeah.
that,
access you want.
It's just that in your process, when you approve, just realize we got an operating
And the-
businesses there, and we don't want a full back curb.
and I would
on
say, Mr. Bloss, that the only thing I could see is we would probably, because of the access to Dixie Drive, the proximity to that first access may be something that falls under our access policies, but after that, you're going
not
to be
gonna
able to
matter.
do whatever you want.
Okay.
Any other items on there, Sean?
Oh,
that you want
okay,
to-
so the rest of them, they all actually seem to be related to a private party dealing with another property owner. I mean, I don't see where we could, where this looks like something you're going to have to deal with internally with them, but I don't see where the city would be involved in
Okay.
any of these.
Thank you. We have no reason to believe that we can't work it out with them. We just want to be clear about what we have there, what remains, and hopefully we can move forward with our development and get it going. But during the interim, we want to make sure we service the tenants that are there now. Thank you for your
Thank you,
consideration.
Mr. Blosh. Thank you. Any others who'd like to make comments at this time on this item, number 3B?
Hi, good evening. My name is Chris Brownberger, and the only comment or concern that I have is there any way that we could bring up the picture that showed the front of the property?
Have you got it? Are you saying the frontage as viewed from Dixie Drive?
Yeah, viewing from,
Did you see it?
yeah.
It was in
the
original presentation that Wes
Right.
Yeah, we do. There
Right
is
there,
one in our
right there.
packet. Mhm.
That one right
There
there,
you
that's
go.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the only concern I have, or that the concern that, I live on Parkside Circle, which is the street. Do you see the house to the far right? Sorry.
I think it's the- There you go.
Oh.
Whoops.
Sorry. And that's why I'm not touching it. Okay, good. Right there. I will visually describe, and I won't touch anything.
You can use this with the mouse.
Okay, thank you. Okay, right here on this side, this is Marshall McConkey's property, and our street cuts down right here, and it just goes all the way down, and we have a dickens of a time pulling out, and I know that was one reason why I think there was a reduction in density, because we've expressed so much concern about trying to pull out on this roadway right here. There's an S-curve on this roadway, and about 2 seconds before this S-curve, the S-curve is about 200 yards, and there's kind of a blind spot as we pull in right here. And so our concern is from this point where this road is going to cut down right here, okay, from Alienta Drive, from the hill, cutting all the way, coming right through here. But by the way, I am in favor of this development. I am not opposing it at all. My concern simply is from this point where our street is right here to this point right here is about 96 yards or about 100 yards. And so I am very concerned about the number of cars that are coming out right here out of this private driveway and then trying to access this busy street, and then with us trying to merge. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry,
I
I don't want to interrupt.
Please, no,
but
go ahead, Gary.
When you're pointing there, Chris, on that, whether you're suggesting they come out,
Uh-huh.
aren't they coming out further down behind that pine tree where it lines up with
Well,
to move.
yeah, just
So
right
you're
here,
just saying
sorry.
that it's close
Yeah,
to
it's-
that section?
It's like 96 yards
Okay.
from this point to this point right
To the
here.
existing.
To the-
You're not
the
changing
existing,
that access.
Where Alienta comes right straight down.
Right.
From Alienta to Marshall McConkey's end of the
Right.
property where Dixie Drive, or where Parkside Circle begins, it's about 100 yards.
Chris,
And-
but
Please
this
go ahead.
project's not changing where the accessing of all that development is to Dixie Drive, right?
And forgive me, I don't even know if this is the right form. I was told
it
in the
is.
previous meeting with respect to this that this would be the appropriate dialogue for me to express my concern. We were just wondering as a group on this street if there's any way that the city could provide more of a merging lane.
Right.
Because
You're right on. What he's telling you is that there is a visual problem in the landscaping. And Wes and I have talked about this, and we plan to meet with that property owner and see, regardless of whether this project is approved or not,
Yeah.
because there is. And I've also asked our engineers to look at the median. So I think you mentioned too that because of the way the
Yeah.
structure of the road, the median that we've put in and landscape may be too long. Right?
It's
And
a
so we need
beautiful
to-
it's a beautiful medium,
Yeah,
and,
but we-
and I hate to tear out
Well-
trees, but it also obstructs the view by being able to see when the cars come around.
And it's
so our
legitimate.
concern is when we come up to the stop sign, we see, now we have about 130 homes in the Green Valley specific neighborhood area, and we're going to pack 50 more right here. And I'm just concerned about the cars coming out of this private driveway and then trying to hang a left, and we're trying to hang a left as well. I know that there was a comment about, there was a suggestion by I think one of the members here who had said, well, maybe we just need to make a constant right turn, and I would just think that would be really unfair to us. We've lived there for 20 years. In order to drive 100 yards to the Green Valley Market, we'd have to drive now a half a mile around, and
No,
it
we
just
won't make
seems
you do that.
It seems unfair to that point. But
Yeah.
I don't know what the city can do other than maybe suggesting that there's more of a merge or I know that you guys already have a deceleration lane here, which we're grateful for, but somehow it would be really helpful for us to have a merging lane. You can see a merging lane right here, but this merging lane ends when you come to Parkside Circle. And so our concern is as this property becomes ever more developed, it's going to become increasingly more difficult for us to hang a left on.
There are some things we can do on that.
And we plan to, like I mentioned, and Wes and I talked, we haven't followed up yet, but we do need the landscaping, and I don't know how we're going to do it. Sean's going to have to help us with the private property versus obscuring the sight distance, but there is a problem. And even though, unfortunately, the median's already in, we need to change that if we have to change it. The other solution in my mind, so I live in this area and I drive it all the time, so I'm cognizant of the fact that there's a lot of traffic on Dixie Drive. you ought to try to make a left-hand turn out of my subdivision, turning on to, from Canyon View on to Dixie Drive too. I have the same issue. But eventually, and it may not be this year, but I'm talking with Cameron, we have to have another signal. That signal is going to have to be at the intersection of this road coming out of there and Aliente, is that what it's called, going up the hill?
I think Aliente, yeah.
Because as the development occurs up on top of the hill,
There's going to be a lot more.
we need more space between. And so there's either going to have to be a signal here or at Sunbrook. And at Sunbrook entrance, there's not two-way or four-way traffic. And so, and I'm looking for Cameron, but I don't see him. But to me, the logical solution, you know, even before these things are built, whatever, is to see how light at this intersection would help, because it would also help spacing for you to get out. It also helps spacing for the other subdivisions that are facing this as well, because there's got a light at Valley View, so that would provide some spacing as well. So we are aware that we've got to do an issue with their problem regardless of this project approval, and we've got to look at the Aliente and put a traffic signal in there, in my opinion. So,
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Other comments on this? Come ahead, and then Mr. Gar.
My name is Bob Secuto, and I live on Parkside Circle too.
Did you get that, Christina? Okay.
And
If you just pull this a little closer.
Chris is 100% right. We have a traffic problem, and I am in favor for the development also. I got here just a little late about this new road going in, but the main thing I want to address down there at the Public Works Director, I talked to Monty and Kirk, and he said when they actually widened Dixie Drive and put the median in, it was kind of done, it was hurried, it was rapidly done. Not all the planning should have been, not all the planning got done that should have got planned. And so that median, if that median was backed up on Parkside Circle that we talked about, I think that would give us a suicide lane or a center lane to hide in.
Let's use a different term.
Yeah. Well, right now it is suicide.
Yeah.
But
We're going to
so
make
we
it better.
Yeah. And like I think someone else mentioned, there's also Tuscan Hills. They're going to have the same problem as they get bigger. Where Dixie Commons is, that's a terrible intersection too. We also mentioned the light, and that light at Aliente and the light at Valley View would almost have to be in sequence, because if you have a traffic light at Aliente, by the time it turned green, it would be red backed all the way up to Valley View. Therefore, we're still trapped in.
Luckily, we have the technology
we do
to
that. We would
Yep.
sequence it, or else we wouldn't make much sense to put it in.
Yep.
Because that's what we're trying to do, is create the spaces so that people can get in off the side streets by sequencing the lights.
Yeah, and one other question. Do you guys do the budget for that? Or when the Public Works, where do they get the money to go ahead and pull the median out? Where does that money come from? Do
It's
you guys
from
approve that?
be from the general fund.
Yeah, okay,
City
that's good
funds.
to know. And now the proposed road coming out of the subdivision is going to stay about the same, or is it going to be moved to the east? I got kind of confused.
There's only, sir, there's only one, there's two accesses approved for this project off of Dixie Drive. The existing access that's
Aliente?
full,
lines up with
full
Aliente.
left in and full right in and out. Then, under their master plan for the additional development, there's a right in, right out to the east, or excuse me, the west side, where they're parking their U-Haul stuff, that area.
Yep.
That's the only two accesses that will be allowed onto Dixie Drive.
Okay, but it still all comes out to the one street heading up Aliente, up the hill up there.
No. There'll be another access to the west on Dixie Drive, which will be a right in and right out. Now, you won't be able to turn left off of that one, but you'll be able to go right in that area right there on
Oh, I
the
see.
far west side of the
Okay,
property.
for future, yeah.
Just not today.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, I'm finished.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name's Dennis Gar. I just want to clarify a couple things on this road and the tree line that goes down there. We've been working with Marv on it, and the way that road sits on the easement that's been dedicated, we'll have to take out part of those trees. We're trying to figure out if we can shift that easement a little bit to keep the trees, but you know, one way or the other, if we have to take the trees, we'll have to plant more when we get done. The access, I don't know if it shows it on this one, but there is 2 accesses that will come off just above that circle to Marv's back part, and then up to the front of his building where his access is now. That's already on our construction drawings. And so whatever, you know, we want it to work for everybody, you know. We want it to look good from the park. We want it to work for Marv, us, and all the neighbors. You know, so I don't think there'll be a problem with any access for Marv. The only thing we'd be concerned about is the big semis that come down into his property. You know, if we have a, you know, I don't know if we do a maintenance agreement on that road or what for, you know, whoever's using it takes care of it. We'll have to see on that. But that, there again, that's
It's up
probably,
to
that's
you guys.
between us.
Yep.
So I think, you know, the concerns with the access is good. The only problem was the tree line. If we can, we want to keep them. That'll depend on Marv. If we can pull that road over, then we'll keep them. If not, we'll just put it where it is and line the new road, like Wes was talking, with the new trees. So,
Mayor, just my own personal opinion here is I know that if the road's built and Mr. Blosh loses access and then he doesn't have enough for all the uses in there, I'd certainly hope that the council would give the staff latitude to save the trees. If it ended up being that there's a few less parking stalls and it's an existing use right now, it'd be better in my mind to see if unless it's 200 stalls. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's 5 or 10 stalls,
Give them a little latitude.
give it latitude, because that's not the ultimate use that's going to end up at that facility. So I would hope that we'd be concerned, because that tree line does provide a natural buffer between the uses there and the residents. And so to take them out to save a few stalls, you know, I think we would try to err on the side of let's try to keep them.
Okay.
well, either way, if we put the easement where it is and do the road, he loses the stalls. If we move it to where we want to save the trees, he still loses the same amount of stalls. That's why he needs to move them, you know, the other way. And I don't remember how many was involved, but you know, where that easement was placed back when he recorded it, it's going to lose a few stalls.
I just think that we're willing to try to be flexible with it to save the trees if we have to.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be our, you know, I'd like to save
Preference.
those big trees.
Okay.
So, okay, any questions?
Any questions for the applicant, Mr. Gar?
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Mr. Blosh?
I'm going to hold you to what you said.
I was going to say it's in the record now. I don't vote.
You said you're going to try. I'm really not trying to be. Here's the issue. I've been told specifically by staff that I would be a non-conformance. So as soon as they cut that road in, I don't know the number, I could figure it out. Maybe I lose half of the stalls in that bank. So maybe there's maybe 80 or 100, maybe 80 there now. I'd lose 40 of them. As soon as they cut those out, the next day somebody comes through and wants to rent my building, I'm in non-conformance. I come down to pull a permit, and they won't do it. So,
But that's your problem right now.
no, it isn't.
It is, because you're giving up 40 stalls, I just heard him say, because he has an easement to build the road, right? So either whether it's at right now or another location, you're going to lose whatever stalls you are, because you got a 50-foot wide
No,
easement.
that is correct. That is
Okay,
correct.
so all
We
I'm
will
saying
lose
is
them.
we're arguing over, you're going to lose them anyway. All I'm suggesting is we'll try to work it out, so if somebody pushes it over and takes the trees out, because they can do that, then I'd rather see us try to work it out. I can't
I
guarantee
agree.
you that
I agree.
you've created the problem, whatever, by giving the easement,
Correct.
and therefore that determines the uses in the building. And so, you know, I'm just trying to say, let's look at it before we cut our hand off.
Well, let's do this. You're correct, and I'm willing to restructure that parking to bring it into conformance as well as for future and existing. So I see that as having to happen. It's just that, you know, the details are the issue. If tomorrow they cut the road, the third day I get somebody that comes in, if you could work with us for a while.
We wouldn't
that'd be
do that.
great.
We would work with you, and we'd look at the alternatives and see what your uses are and try to calculate it and try to work. But the problem is that you're going to lose, if you're going to lose 40 out of 80 stalls, then you got some issues.
Yeah, and we show that on the plan. We show an expanded new parking lot. The fact is, in real life, we have way more stalls than we have ever needed. And so while the code will reflect the maximum requirement, if you could cut us a little in between there and when we do the improvements for the new parking lot, that would be most helpful.
Mr. Blosh, is there a certain time frame you need in order to construct your parking?
We haven't, we got to pull our wallet out and figure out how we're going to pay for that, but we would propose that we need to move on it fairly rapidly. Maybe it's a year,
Okay, so we'll give you a year, and we could put that on the record here, that we'll give you a year
fast.
to come into compliance.
I should have said 3 years. Thank you.
You couldn't put that. Okay, he should be an attorney, huh? Any other comments? I'll close the public hearing at this time. Come back to you, council. I'm ready for a motion unless you have any questions. I think we've gone through this pretty well.
Mayor, I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
Based on the fact that in the longevity of being here, even on the planning commission, I've seen this property wrestled, what are we going to do with this? It was an oddity until everyone built around you, and now it's kind of in the middle. It's still that position, but this is a move forward. It helps perhaps for the whole project to develop in a more residential way. Let's say that. So based on that, I'm willing to make a motion for approval of this zone change request to rezone 6.04 acres from PD commercial residential mixed use to PDR planned development residential to accommodate a townhouse development project consisting of 14 dwelling structures. I have 54 units here. Is it 54 or 50?
50.
It'd be 50 with the option to get 4 more units.
With that other
With
access.
another second access.
Okay. So 50 at this time with the caveat that 4 additional may be built with the secondary access.
And I will second that with the idea that Joe wanted to. No, that all of the people with concerns and valid concerns supported the project.
Okay, and may I amend that motion after you seconded it, because there were 2 other items. One, flexibility on the roadway placement based upon the tree issue, which I see benefiting the neighbors that are over the wall on Parkside, as well as secondarily, the year to come into compliance for any parking issues.
Is that acceptable, Betty?
Yes.
We have a motion by Gil and a second by Betty. Discussion? Joe, any questions?
I just have a comment that 40 years ago when I moved here with more business forums, there was nothing out there.
Yeah.
There wasn't even a road out there. So this will be a great improvement, and I just think that it's going to work out for everybody if we work together.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, I hope we improve that road too. I think those were very valid comments
Yeah.
for safety.
Very good. Good comments. Thanks for being here, everyone. This requires a roll call vote, so starting with Joe this time, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Mayor, and I'll make the commitment that between Wes and Cameron, that we'll come back and address those issues and contact the property owner and also look at the median, because it is we need to do that.
Very good.
And
Thank
Gary,
you.
may I add, Gary, that something that could be done right now, because I've watched, and it's only logical that at the corner of the Green Valley Market area, that commercial, that the traffic have priority going basically south to north. And some may say east to west there, but anyway.
East to west.
And we could ask Sean, and he would
He'd defer to Gary.
be up or down.
Believe me, they have priority right now, because I have to turn left to get onto my house off of Valley View Drive, and I sit there for a long time.
And my point is that we could add a couple second interval there temporarily to give them a little more time, even though those going on Dixie Drive will not like to wait longer when nobody's sitting on the other side, but it would help.
Yep, that's good, because that would help me get
Yeah.
turned left off of there. I thought I
It
was
would.
going east-west, north-south. I got
All right. That motion carried, by the way. Okay, next. 3C. Yeah, you're here now, dude. You're stuck.
Item 3C, public hearing to consider a zone change request to rezone 10.83 acres from single-family residential, 10,000 square foot minimum lot size, to planned development commercial. This is located along the west side of River Road at approximately 1450 South Street. So again, the current zoning is R110. What's requested with this is PDC. And I've got a little summary here. All the information is in your report, just trying to summarize it. The request is to change the zoning on 10.83 acres. The second part is to review their written text of their overall project concept. 3, an important part of this zone change is to look over the list of use for all of the property for the entire center. And Planning Commission spent quite a bit of time on this. We have a finalized list to present to council. Number 4, with this project specifically is a car wash that's proposed, and there are elevations in your packet and renderings. There's materials behind the mayor. And so that would be specifically a building, the only building to be looked at. With this 10.83 acres, it's a request to approve the concept of the ingress and egress for vehicles, the right-ins, the right-outs, deceleration. 6, approve the concept of phasing. And 7, approve the concept of overall landscaping, although each site will have its own specific landscape plans when it's submitted with each project. So again, I'm getting a little repetitious, but this is to change the zone for the entire property. Request to approve the use of list, to look at the car wash itself, and then understanding that in the future, for the other buildings, you'd have to come in with an amendment, zone change amendment, to do those buildings. Then you'd look at the materials and layout and everything.
And if I'm not mistaken, then number 7 there would also include parking approved for each project. Is that true?
Well, we've been looking at the layout on that, and the platting. When they come in, we'll have to look with a zone change amendment how they're going to do each lot and the parking to be on-site, standalone, so it supports. Well,
The same as the landscaping requirement, really on an individual building.
yeah.
Okay.
And I assume that's to make sure we're protected from issues that we've had in other places where we have more restaurants, for example, or fast food places than we expect, and then it's congested, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Part of it.
Very good.
So here's an aerial view of the area. Just for reference, here's the new Maverick that was under construction. Jiffy Lube is here, 1450 South, and Summit would be over here, the gym. And then Long River Road, this is where we're looking at. I'm going to skip over this quick. This was just showing that there's several parcels there in acreage. This is showing a general plan that before the recent general plan was approved, there was commercial. However, this section down here is now, as you'll recall, been changed to commercial. And that is what this graphic is showing. And then the current zoning, again, it's this yellow color R110. And this is the conceptual site plan for the layout, although, again, this would come in with separate zone change amendments, except right here where I'm pointing is the proposed car wash. And I'll show a little bit more detail, and I'm sure you've looked and seen that's in the packet. This is just an overall concept for the project. And this is the written text. This is required with a zone change, and the written text has to include the following, and they've done that. I'm not going to read all of this. It's in the packet. It's just they've met that. So I'm going to kind of zip through here quickly. We can always come back. Materials and colors. These are the synthetic stone, the concrete roof tiles, the earth tone colors, and again, that's on the wall behind the mayor. And then the site plan that will be looked at tonight really is only for this area here, the car wash. There's been talk about a building here in the future by Bunday Lane. That is not proposed tonight. That'll have to come back, as these other buildings would. Now, the proposed use list, this is something that is requested to be approved by council tonight. When we have a project like this, the developer will often try to get and cover all things, anticipate what might be used in the future. We feel that this is a good list that cover most retail and entertainment activities, and we've talked with the developer, with staff, that in the future, if there was some unusual circumstance and they were doing a zone change amendment for a site, then council has seen people come in before and request an amendment to the use. So there's a section for amusement, recreation, entertainment, dance studio, martial arts, health club, fitness center, indoor activities, paintball, bowling, miniature golf. Doesn't mean we expect to see these, but those are the categories. Possible theater. Animal services would be indoors only, small animal boarding, animal hospital, veterinarian clinic, pet store, pet grooming. Planning Commission wanted to make the emphasis again on indoor only. Automotive, Planning Commission recommended these uses, again making an emphasis indoor only. Auto parts sales, auto rental, auto repair, tire sales, car wash, and the car wash is part of this project specifically. Business and financial, professional type offices, banks, real estate, accounting, food services, bakery, catering, delicatessen, ice cream parlor, restaurants, whoops. And non-industrial, like if you wanted to create candy, you're making it there, that's a candy shop would be a possibility. Medical, dental, quite a few listed here for retail sales, again, all indoors. I'm not going to read all of them because I don't want to put you to sleep. Service business, indoor only, barber shop, beauty shop, etc. And here's the car wash that's proposed. The colored elevations are here, all four sides, the east, north, south, west. And you can see the stonework, the earth tones, the synthetic stucco. And I think that was it for the graphics. I'm going to go quickly to the staff report itself. I think I've covered most everything. Again, this is a zone change request, but it's for all of the acreage and the use list and the car wash. I'm going to jump ahead to page 4, and this was the Planning Commission recommendation. Planning Commission recommends approval with conditions. These are, again, only suggested. This is a motion to recommend approval to the City Council of a planned development commercial zone for Boulder Creek Crossing with the following recommended conditions. Number 1, acreage, that the zone be changed from R110 to PDC on 10.83. 2, that the use list as reviewed and recommended be approved. Written text as submitted is approved. Access, approval of the concept of vehicle ingress and egress. And we'll have to look at this in the plats and the civil engineering drawings. The car wash, approval of the layout, rendering, elevations, colors, and materials. 6 is just putting an emphasis on what is not covered. This zone change does not approve construction of the future college building, bank, restaurants, etc. Each individual project will require submittal and review of a zone change amendment, have to go back before Planning Commission, have to go back before City Council. 7, site plan review, that would be the civil plans staff will have to look at. 8, lighting will have to be protective and dark sky style. 9, they'll have to do, a TIS traffic impact study shall be approved by city traffic engineers. 10, car wash ownership, subject to legal review, demonstrate car wash. Phase 1 has legal ownership transferred to it. 11, car wash design, approval of the design, colors, and materials presented for the car wash. So I feel like I went through it quickly, but I was trying to be sensitive to time. I think I've covered most of it. Staff's available for questions, and that concludes comments at this point.
Thank you, Ray. Questions? Council?
I have a question. At the time we met in the Planning Commission, I'm not sure that the traffic study was completed. Has that been done and approved? Okay, and everything's okay with it?
Yeah, there's some items that we need to discuss with the applicant internally first, and then going. Yeah, it has been approved, and there's some items we need to go over with the applicant, but we need to discuss it internally first, just because of the nature of River Road and the future traffic that's generated along there.
But that's been completed, the
Yeah,
study's
the
been
study has
completed.
been completed, yep.
Thank you.
And we're trying to merge the study for this particular parcel into the overall traffic study we've done on River Road and with the new improvements that we're
The widening.
doing on River Road and how that'll change the traffic flow as well. Plus the signals, there'll be 2 signals on, this road this
St.
year.
James.
St. James, then on down at
Brigham.
Brigham Road.
Which has already started construction.
Mayor, I would assume that this would be an appropriate time to, again, talk about Bundy Lane and what some of us felt like was an inappropriate use of the property, the 2 building lots, right to the end of that lane. In that, I know we're not approving that section, but I still feel that that's the wrong use for the end of a subdivision street.
It would be included in the zone change, though.
Would it? Well, then
Even though we're not specifically, they'd have to come back to amend the PD commercial zone. It would be approved, if it is approved, it would be as part of the zone change tonight. Correct, Sean? Do I have that under right?
That's correct. And the site plan you're approving would be this site plan here without the any access on the Bundy Lane.
So it is part of the consideration.
I think this is a wonderful project, and but I just feel like they still would have the opportunity to develop that land, but I just think putting a school there was just inappropriate on the end of a residential street.
Gary, did you have something?
No, I was just going to clarify that I think the action wasn't it a general plan amendment?
Yes.
That allows them to come back at that point with a commercial. Okay. And therefore, certainly if you don't think the commercial project fits the general plan, then that's legitimate. But I think the issue of whether the general plan is wrong and should be residential was discussed at the meeting when you took a vote. Now, that doesn't change your feelings as far as whether you don't like the project or not in that location.
No.
You certainly have that right. But that's how we got to this point.
Right. Other comments or questions before I open the public hearing?
Just one comment on that. Even if those 2 lots were made residential, you're still going to have a commercial next to it, probably.
I don't think that's the problem. I think it's just right at the end of their access.
I understand that.
No, I don't think anyone had a problem with the commercial there, and I do not either. It's an appropriate use for that.
It's like Joe's point is there's going to be you're going to back up against commercial one way or the other. It's just where you do. So,
Mayor,
understandable.
On the use list, the automotive indoor only section, I think the applicant should address the auto repair, including paint, body, fender, brake, muffler work, as far as sometimes that doesn't always stay indoors. And there's spillover into a parking area of a car that they're working on or something, and that, I think, would deteriorate from the overall look. So you might want to address that particular one. And you have daycare down here and pest control, isn't that the same thing?
Good thing you're not running again.
All right.
Any other comments? Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing then for item 3C for anyone who's come to express comments on this item. Again, number 3C on the agenda. Okay.
I noted, Mayor, in the...
Let me close the public hearing then. Gil?
I noted in the packet there weren't any public comments at the Planning Commission meeting either, so surprised by that because it's a very, very visual, and perhaps people want the opportunity to use these services and have this closer, and it fits with the idea that in the general plan we've talked about where population centers, mostly residential, fly outside of the city center, that traffic congestion is caused by everyone forcing on smaller roads to go to one place, and that these services that they've listed here are those that would be used from that residential setting. So,
Well, and I don't think many of the homeowners around there opposed commercial right there. I mean, we heard from them last time, and they opposed commercial on that 1.5 acres or whatever.
Right.
So they're not opposed to the commercial.
yeah.
Was there discussion in that, at that time, about the fact that, I guess in my mind, I'm thinking if I'm on Bundy Lane, there's going to be no access to the commercial there. That's going to create less of a traffic problem on Bundy Lane than additional homes. If there's no access to the commercial center, if you put a couple more homes there, there's going to be, several more cars coming in there. Was there any discussion on that? Did the neighbors, I was under the impression that the neighbors favored that as long as there was no commercial access off of Bundy Lane.
We did talk about that.
I thought the school could access that road.
They, I think initially were going to, but then that changed. Is that correct? The applicants.
So there'll
here.
be no access to the commercial off of Bundy Lane? Okay, so that'll eliminate a traffic problem on Bundy Lane, and maybe that's better for the residents.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I would
talked to
think
every one of them.
long-term here, if I was a resident in Bundy Lane, you already have, whatever they have access issue onto River Road, they're going to have, right?
Right.
So why wouldn't they want an access into the commercial? Because now, if they want to get into the commercial, they got to go out onto River Road, make a left,
Go
in a
back
bad
in.
intersection, drive down, and then get in. So, we've tried all, and I don't know, I guess this is a different situation. Maybe they don't want that access, because maybe they think people are going to come out of the commercial into their
Right.
subdivision. But if there's people are coming in their subdivision anyway, all they got to do is go down and make a right-hand turn onto Bundy Lane. So I think that down the road, that people who live there may be having a second thought, because also, if they could get into the commercial, then they could take down the commercial and get into the light at
To get out.
1450 to get out, because it's tough to get out left and right on Bundy. And so to me, I would welcome the chance to drive through that parking lot and get down that light rather than take my chances on River Road. That's just my
I think that's true. And when I I went down the lane and talked to every homeowner, and it wasn't so much the access and the traffic, it was the visual use to have a building right there instead of homes on your street. So I may be wrong, but I didn't ever hear the traffic problem. It was the,
I think one of the partial solutions for the traffic on Bundy Lane, though, will be addressed when the light is on St.
St.
James,
James.
which will make some breaks in there.
It'll help.
yeah. But I
Break
don't
it
think
up.
that's their issue.
The Bundys are all turning right anyways. The strips that way, so they already turn right.
I think that issue was more or less discussed and resolved before it came to us, and that's why we didn't hear much about it, but it was an issue, I think, originally. Okay, council, public hearing's closed. Any questions, comments? If the applicant wants to say anything, they'd be welcome to.
Did we get any letters or anything on this?
Not this time.
Good evening, and thank you for taking a moment to consider this again. We appreciate it. On the note
Mike
of-
Sheffield, for the record.
Oh, apologize. Yeah, Mike Sheffield. On the note, as far as the access from Bundy Lane and the safe egress, we are currently working on an agreement right now with the Taylors as well as the Bundys in order to allow access from Bundy Lane through the back way to then access 1450 South with the streetlight, with the complete goal in mind of having completely safe access, left turn, right turn, straight, whatever they want. So that should be experienced within a year or two. I mean, at the longest amount, 2 to 3, but we want it to be done in a year.
But really has nothing to do with this decision tonight.
Correct. It just happened to be an item you discussed, so.
That's a good point. I forgot about that. Yeah, they were talking about that last time.
And just one final note, we appreciate and understand the concerns of the residents, and we are sensitive to it. We have experimented with all sorts of different options, have hired engineering and architects to decide on what is the best use from our perspective, and we recognize that that perspective does not represent everyone's views. However, we've done what we can to come to a middle of the road approach on a lot of things to help it be as acceptable as possible to those who disagree. I was in a meeting with Tom Durant, who this afternoon for several hours, and we've really come to a great place. And so in my opinion, I think we're really close to where we can be as best as we can. And so just a note there. Are there any other questions you'd like to ask of me?
Mayor?
Yeah, Gary.
I agree with Gil in the uses that you show there with regard to automobile repair and paint and the rest of that. I've never seen one that in this town that
Yeah.
that I'm aware of that doesn't have cars waiting out in the parking lot and other bays that come in. And if I was a neighbor there, I'd be really concerned about how that's going to look in a PD zone if it's all going to be guaranteed to be inside, because who's going to enforce that? And we'll have our code enforcement people that nobody likes down there knocking on your door, because in reality you can't have anything outside that. So I'd be very leery of that particular use, but maybe if you can give some assurances that however it's built there, that use stays inside, because when the neighbors call, we'll be down there visiting you.
Sure.
The applicant willing to forego that use?
Well, the way we ended up at that use is quite simple. We don't have a client who wants to have that use. We simply took the broad recommended use, and with the help of the planning staff, whittled it down to what we thought was just okay. So we aren't particularly attached to that. And so with the addition of indoor use, we had that very thought in mind of we really ought to have things like this that could cast a bad light on this development to be indoors. And so we didn't think that far in depth as far as an auto body paint or repair shop. So we wouldn't be opposed to that alteration.
Okay, did you hear that, council? Yeah, it could be part of the motion. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Sheffield? Okay.
Thanks.
Other comments, solutions, motions?
Are we ready for a motion? Mayor, I would like to move that we consider the zone change request to rezone 10.83 acres from single-family residential, 10,000 square feet minimum lot size, to planned development commercial located along the west side of River Road at approximately 1450 South River Road.
So you've made a motion to approve the zone change?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll second that motion. And specifically, don't you need language in there also about the car wash?
Yeah.
I was just going to say that, but I'll amend your second.
We've done that before.
Yeah, and eliminate the car wash option.
Not car wash, the
I mean,
auto
no,
body.
auto, excuse me.
Yeah.
Auto repair.
Mike just about had a heart attack. Yeah.
But include the car wash.
Okay.
Yes, definitely include the car wash.
Okay.
Motion by Betty and a second by Gil. Any further discussion? Joe?
I think we just need to include those recommendations from the staff. There was like 8 or 10 of them that
The Planning
need to be
Commission.
in there too.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay.
Yes.
Second.
Okay, this is an ordinance requiring a roll call vote. All in favor, starting with Betty, say aye.
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 Motion carries.
And I just want to add that I appreciate the Sheffields working with those residents. They've been there a long time.
They have.
And it's just kind of a institution for some of us to have them there, and
True.
thank you for doing that.
Okay, Ray?
Next item on the list is item 3D, public hearing to consider a general plan amendment from employment and medium-density residential to high-density residential on approximately 51.59 acres, generally located at 1280 West, 4700 South, Sun River, St. George.
We're not taking on any hard things tonight, are we?
So this is a general plan amendment. It is referred to as a villas, but we don't have a project at this time. It would have to come in with a zone change and platting. This is the property. Here's the Interstate 15, Interchange 2, Milepost 2, and Sun River Parkway, just for reference. And again, this is 51.95 acres, excuse me. This is the aerial showing the vicinity. And here's the general plan. You got this pinkish color, E, employment, MDR, medium density residential, and these two they would like to change to become a high density residential. There is high density residential here, this brown color, and here is low density residential, and to the north is commercial and mixed use. Current zoning is planned development commercial and planned development residential. This would have to change in the future if the general plan amendment is to be approved. That is basically it, but let me make sure I covered everything here. So again, it's a general plan amendment. The motion recommended from the Planning Commission was it's recommended to the City Council to amend the general plan from E, employment and medium density residential, to high density residential on 51.95 acres. And that concludes staff's comments.
Thank you, Ray. Any questions for Ray? Okay, we may have more later. I'll open the public hearing for any who have come to express comments on this item, number 3D on the agenda. I'd be happy to hear from the applicant at some point if they would like to.
Good evening. My name is Guy Bourgeois, common spelling.
I love it.
Bourgeois. I have several concerns. Let me make one thing clear first, is I don't oppose development of that parcel of land there. My concern is the high density designation. I think the Planning Commission was somewhat premature in approving high density there, because I think there were too many open questions about what was going to go on there. We don't know how many units will be put on there. That, to me, appeared that the developer didn't know either. That was going to be something that would be determined in the future. Also, the configuration of the units, whether they're single-family townhomes, twin homes, condominiums, apartments. We didn't know what the percentage of each would be, whether the apartments would be two-story or multi-story or just one-story. That also was not determined at the time when the Planning Commission approved that. There was also a mention that these would be rental units. There would be some rental units in there. And we don't know whether they'd be long-term, they'd be monthly rentals, weekly rentals, daily rentals. And I think earlier there was some concern. I think you understand what some of the concerns are with rental units in a residential area. There was also concern about the water availability, and that was kind of glossed over during the Planning Commission meeting. We all are aware of what the problems are here in southern Utah with water, so I won't belabor that point. I'm also concerned that now that this is high density, or if it gets approved as high density, that
Remember, sir, this is just a general plan amendment tonight, so.
Okay, well, maybe I'm out of order.
It's not zone, it won't be a zone change at this point. They'd have to come back for that.
Okay, one other area of my concern is traffic. High-density designation would allow 1,100 units to be put on the property. That would mean probably 2,200 people living on that site. If we assume that everybody, all 2,200 residents, make one trip a day to go somewhere, doctor visit, banking, gas station, whatever errand they might run, that would involve 2,200 cars leaving that facility. That means also that'd be 2,200 cars coming back in that facility. Total of 4,400 cars per day would be at the corner of Sun River Parkway and Arrowhead Canyon Drive. That's 4,400 vehicles, probably within only about a 12-hour period, say 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So that's 4,400 vehicles in 12 hours at that intersection would cause quite a traffic concern there. Every resident of Sun River would be impacted, some more than others, depending on the location of their residence. In addition, we have to remember that these are not 30-something drivers. These are 60, 70, 80-something drivers that can pose a significant traffic hazard in that area, not only to other drivers, but to pedestrians. I think today in the paper we saw that there was a pedestrian that was killed on Sunset while crossing the street, and they also in that article mentioned other pedestrian fatalities in the area, one of them actually on Sun River a couple of years ago. So that additional traffic, we also have additional noise pollution, air pollution, and I think a general decline in quality of life in that area. So as I said, I'm not opposed to the development of that area, but I would ask the City Council to maybe consider some alternate and appropriate alternative. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other comments?
Judy Bozeman. I'm a resident of Sun River. I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm referencing a document that was sent to all Sun River residents on July the 13th, 2015. And in reading it, it says the first several phases of the villas will be twin homes. Our current design for the property yields a density of about 7 units per acre. Okay, doing the math, there's 51 acres times 7 is 357 units. So the traffic issue that the gentleman before me just commented seems extremely high. That's all. And the other thing was he said that the units would be owned with the ability to rent, and any rental would require professional property management, which I think would probably be more responsible and not someone just renting on their own. And yes, I am in favor of the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Judy, appreciate it. Other comments?
My name is Barbara McLaughlin. I'm a resident at Sun River. I guess I am in favor of the employment medium density for the project. This land was originally, the developers told us, wanted to be annexed into Sun River. Literally overnight, they changed their mind and said the project was going to be villas. Okay, that sounded fine. And then we found out when we came to the Planning Commission meeting that it was high density. The lady, if I understood her correctly, was talking about medium density. High density is up to 22 units per acre, as I understand it, not what she just said. It's quite a few people. The other gentleman was correct. That'd be 1,100 units, 2,200 people. Big change in the traffic, big change in a lot of things. So I'm in favor of villas, but I'm not in favor of high density. One of my concerns was when I attended the Planning Commission meeting was that it was disturbing to me to watch the process. There were only 4 members, I believe, of the 7 that were present. 2 of the members seemed to have concerns about the issue that was presented for high density. One of them turned to one of the members of the Planning Commission who is a resident at Sun River and asked her how she felt about the whole project. Well, I think it's great if she wants to give her opinion as a Planning Commission member, but she is not an elected representative of the Sun River residents. Her comment was that she thought the developers were great and nice people and have done a nice job at Sun River, but she felt that it would be just fine whatever they wanted to do. Well, immediately you could see a change and a wavering in the way those two members had previously seemed to be not in favor. And I'm not the only one who believes this. But when she gave that testimony as a resident, it's bothersome because, in fact, that evening there were several residents who got up and spoke saying they were not in favor of that, including one of our neighborhood representatives who does represent a large portion of the residents of Sun River. And really, they were not paid any heed. So I don't know. I think it's fine if she gives her professional opinion as a member of the Planning Commission, but she does not represent the residents of Sun River, and she should not have given that testimony in that way, because it did sway the outcome, which the vote was, I believe, 4-0.
Well, remember, first of all, she's free to do that.
I understand legally she is.
But also, they are a recommending body.
Right.
So this is, the city council makes the final decision, and you know, we all come with our, you know, where we live and our
Yep.
personal things, and that does come into it, and we do the best we can, as does the Planning Commission. They do a lot of heavy lifting, frankly.
I understand that.
Sometimes it's kind of, which way do you go? So I think, I know who you're speaking of, and, you know, if she were on this council, I'd be asking her what she thought too, because, you know, she lives there. So I don't know how you separate that. I think it's important that we, you know, we act professionally, but it's also, we come with, you know, feelings and opinions, so.
I understand that, but I think the residents and particularly the neighborhood representative should have had some sway on that.
And we would assume they would.
Yeah.
But again, in every single decision we make here tonight, the person saying the invocation talked about it. We're going to make some people happy, and we're going to make some people unhappy, and they're going to think we didn't listen. But we do. We really make an effort, as does the Planning Commission, I believe, to try to listen to everybody, and then we have to be Solomon, you know, we have to decide. So I understand, but I don't know how you get out of that.
Well, I've attended a number of the Planning Commission meetings and the City Council meetings. I'm sure it happens, but I have yet to see a case where, if the Planning Commission recommended it, that it didn't go through.
You didn't. Earlier tonight, the Planning Commission recommended unanimously against what they just approved.
Okay.
So it happens more often than what you think.
And just another comment from me, I was at that meeting. Of course, I'm a representative from the city council. I don't vote
Right, I saw
in
you
that
there.
planning commission. I'm a little concerned that you feel like that someone was swayed by her testimony. We're all looking at what other people say to help us make a decision. I don't think her idea was ever to sway anybody. It was to put out those thoughts that she had, the same way we will put out thoughts here and then make a decision.
I don't think she had malintent. I think that's what she truly believed. I'm just saying, as a Planning Commission, I think it should be done on a professional level as to traffic, those types of things, not how she feels about the developers.
Well,
Because I think the developers are fine people as well. But this project on its merits with high density is a different story.
The merits will be determined by those people who end up doing the voting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, City Council. My name's Cameron Ferguson. I live in Sun River. In thinking over what really happens here, I looked at I guess you call it the general plan, master plan, and I'll be real brief. I'm going to go real quick. But I realized that the general, or the master plan, is a comprehensive...
General plan.
We call it general plan?
Yeah.
Okay, comprehensive guide for making land use decisions, describing how the community wants to grow, what land uses should take place, how the community should look, and is a reflection of community values. It sets a vision for St. George and provides objectives and strategies. It's designed to preserve the quality of life now enjoyed by residents. The plan provides it as a continuation of the original city planning of the Mormon pioneers, who came to the desert area in 1861 and formulated their conception of what St. George should be and how the community should be laid out and organized. Through their efforts and the efforts of later community leaders, St. George was and continues to be, as noted, one of the most livable cities in the nation. Formulation of the plan involved a lengthy process of neighborhood meetings, public input, review by city departments, consultation with nearby cities and government agencies, and it was approved by the Planning Commission and the City Council after public hearing. The plan notes the reduction of water and power consumption has now become priorities. The plan involves preservation of scenic beauty, consideration of traffic, and the concern of careful integration of the land in the area of Sun River and avoiding unplanned sprawl. The plan also provides that zoning should be consistent. It provides, I agree, and it provides that high-density housing is important for the segment of the community, but the plan does not provide for high density in certain areas. And it doesn't apply, it applies in some, not others. It doesn't apply next to Sun River. That the current plan is medium density. As far as I know, when we're looking at the map, all of Sun River density, whatever it's zoned, is medium. It's houses that are, there's no apartments there as I know. It's all medium density housing. This would be a big exception to the whole community of Sun River right next to Sun River. We talked about, I think the preservation of the plan should be what happens. It should be the norm. Otherwise, I think we're ignoring possibly, a lot of the well-intentioned people and who have considered the plan over many years and formulated the plan. So as I understand, getting to the matter at issue, the developer wants a change in zoning so it can build and sell more housing units than would otherwise be allowable under the general plan. However, in reading the master plan, I don't see that the request of a developer to build more houses than the plan allows is a reason for the plan amendment. Increasing the density of housing does not preserve the quality of life for the nearby Sun River residents. I mean, high density, it's been said, well, you might have a factory. Obviously, high density, we're not talking about a factory, we're talking about high density. It's just indicated. It increases the number of people from, I think it's 9 to 21 or whatever it is. So it's a very significant increase. It's unlike any other part of Sun River. The increased housing will inevitably increase traffic in the area, particularly on the Sun River Parkway, and that'll result in congestion, as noted. That's not a benefit to retired people. The increased demand for water due to high-density housing is also an adverse factor, and I think water is an issue here. I understand that amending the plan to allow a high-density residential area next to Sun River doesn't guarantee the developer will actually build high-density housing. But once the plan is amended to allow high-density housing, I think it's going to be pretty hard for anybody to deny that a zoning request to high-density planning. Otherwise, why change it in the first place? And then once you have the general plan changed, you have the zoning changed, you come back with specific construction, but it already equals and meets the high-density planning. So I think tonight is really the night when you set the whole process in motion. If you go ahead with the change, everything follows. To me, it's inevitable. There will be high-density housing in Sun River. Let's see. Also, I guess the thing that I'm concerned about is that, obviously, the change doesn't guarantee that the developer will build high density, but he certainly has that option. And I don't think he would be making this request unless he planned to build high-density planning or high-density housing. The change in the master plan runs with the land. This builder, if some other builder acquired the land, they could build anything in accordance with high-density planning, even though I appreciate the excellent housing that the developer has already made there. This is outside of Sun River. It could be sold or acquired by a different developer. It could become basic. There's no guarantee this is going to be plus 55 housing. The way I did the math is the presence of an additional 2,200 people in the immediate area to Sun River with all, and this is not due just to the medium density. This is what I'm talking about, the increase of the high density planning. So it causes a great increase in the number of people. Almost done. There was a question on the plan of whether there should be a public hearing. The response was no. They stated that eliminating the employment land will be they didn't believe that eliminating the employment land classification will be opposed. The response omitted any reference to the proposed housing high density change. I think there should be a public hearing on that. I mean, something in Sun River where the people can get together and say what they want. This is a very dramatic increase in the number of people living next to Sun River, and it's not, I think, what most anybody bought the land thinking it would happen. To me, this change is premature at this point. There's very little detail upon what the plan would be. If the developer were to come forward with more details on the plan, then we could kind of see what it is. We could see, is it going to be the maximum number of high-density housing, or is it going to be a lesser number? We don't know that. So I think it should be tabled. And again, I think the integrity of the general plan should be sustained. And I don't see any compelling reasons to change that otherwise, other than what the developer has requested. And I don't see that as a major change. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Hi, my name is Janelle Kessner. Yes, I live in Sun River. Mine's very brief. When I made the determination to move to Utah, St. George was up in the list for retirees. Yes, it is. It's absolutely nationwide. This is one of the places to come. The first off-ramp we got to was Southern Parkway. It was a massive off-ramp. Continued on, went downtown, stayed at a bed and breakfast, visited your Chamber of Commerce, shared with them we were retiring from the city of Los Angeles. We needed to downsize everything. He recommended us go to Sun River. We saw the billboards on our way in. We've heard the radio ads. You can Google it. You can internet it. You can anything. We did make a stop in Sun River. I made questions. One was, wow, that's a huge off-ramp. It must accommodate more than Sun River residents, which they did explain. It will accommodate the airport. It will accommodate Santa Clara one day, possibly.
Could
correct?
do.
Could. I asked about the surrounding properties. What about the property vacant on Arrowhead Parkway? Well, that's part of the developer. He's going to conclude that possibly to Sun River residents one day. The properties adjacent to the retreat was going to be the second retreat. However, that did end up over on Dixie, unfortunately, because it's very beautiful. And then obviously the north, west of the 15 freeway, I understand, will be retail. So I inquire across the 15 on the east side. A service station, possibly, more homes and a park. I can settle with that. But my biggest concern was Arrowhead Parkway. I walk, I run. I ride my bike, I drive my car. It will not accommodate the residencies of high densities there. It's actually not a safety street as it is right now. We pay attention. There are seniors that live there. It is a golf cart community. So we take those things into consideration when we're out on our walks because we're enjoying these areas of ours. The entrances to this community would be on Arrowhead Parkway. It would be extremely huge there. Now, take into consideration the retail center or possibly hotels or whatever it's going to be on the other corner adjacent to Sun River Parkway, which I really believe retail will go there. We already have high density now. That off-ramp's going to be used not for a gas station, I understand, but possibly a truck stop.
That's right.
So everything's getting more and more high density, not so much with our living, but with our traffic. It's a big consideration. The only area, if we could have brought that map back up, which they describe as high density, is actually homes. There's no high density there. I can take you for a walk and show you the area they describe as high densities. It's homes. It's homes on a cul-de-sac on a corner. So there's no 2 stories. The only 2 stories is actually a basement type story home. They face the golf course. There's no view obstruction. I mean, it's beautiful. So I'm not worried about the view obstruction. I'm worried about the people and the safety of others and the quality of our life. I mean, we came here for a reason. You guys opened your arms, we're here. I just don't want to see hands go like this because it would be devastating. So thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I'll close the public hearing at this time. If there's anything the applicant would like to say, they'd be welcome to.
Good evening, council, staff. Thank you very much. We are asking for a general plan amendment to high density just so that we could break that 10 barrier. Right now, we've got a large piece of this property that is medium density, which is 5 to 9. We're contemplating having a product that's maybe 14 to the acre for maybe a portion of this. But the majority of this project is going to be twin homes. And if we did it solid twin homes, it's going to be about 7 per acre. That's what we'd prefer to do right now, but we want the flexibility. But all those details you'll see in the zone change. This is a general plan amendment, and it's about, is this property appropriate for high-density residential? And there's few areas, if this doesn't qualify, I'm not sure what would qualify in St. George. It's at a major interchange, Southern Parkway. It's been master planned. There's commercial properties all around this interchange. Traffic studies will tell us how big the roads need to be. Water availability will be determined by city services. I think a lot of people's concerns will be resolved with our zone change application package. Not everybody's by any stretch, but it's not going to be, I think they picture high rises maybe, and they picture something really intensive. But any project, even though we would get a ceiling of 22, and this is what they're afraid of, that 22 units per acre will actually get built on that property. It would have to prove itself in the zone change process. And if it can't do that, it wouldn't get approved. We don't, again, that's not appropriate to tell you what we're planning on doing, because maybe we could sell it tomorrow, but we're not going to. About 2 or 3 weeks, you'll see a zone change package. And it'll be mostly twin homes and maybe some 2-story multi-unit buildings.
Gary?
Well, just from a staff's perspective, Mayor, we think that the action to a high-density residential zone is premature as well. If the true intent of the developer is to go to a medium density, if you look on your agenda under 3F, we have exactly what would handle this proposal. It's a new category called medium high density residential with a density range from 10 to 15 units per acre in a PD zone, which, if that's approved, then...
Would that be, I'm sorry, would that be available tonight?
Well, you're not getting anything tonight, because you got to go through a general plan amendment, then you got to come back for a zone change.
Right, right.
So, I mean, to me, that's what we're trying to understand here, is because exactly what the residents are concerned about is that if you change the general plan amendment, then yes, the burden is probably on you to decide the high-density residential going to 22 units doesn't fit that property. Okay? Because then, how do you have a general plan that says you're going to have high density there, and then you come in with a 22 unit, then unless they're accesses or whatever, how they do their own internal development, then it's very difficult to prove it. Almost impossible to turn you down. Right. So when you sell the property, if you do sell it to somebody else, even though you have the right intent, then that's where the concern comes in, that you don't see what you have. So on the agenda, it goes, if you approve the recommendation from the staff, is that we have a real problem with medium density, high density. You go from 5 to 9, and then you go to 22. So that's why we're recommending in a PD zone in certain situations, 10 to 15 units per acre is appropriate as medium density with a higher end based on the product that you're getting in your zone change, because it has to be a PD. So if they're true to their intent of what they want to build there, then this new ordinance change, if you approve it tonight, would relieve that problem, and you could have 10 to 14 units. That's the issue to me.
So would that be 10 to 15 be acceptable for what your future plans are?
Absolutely. I think 22 is just so scary to people, but it goes from 10 to 22. So it makes sense that they're having this.
That's why he's the city manager. I was sitting here reading the agenda down here going, oh, here's a maybe a
solution.
good compromise.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I
We
think that was
suggested that.
discussed at the planning
And we
commission
suggested
also.
that would be a good opportunity. Planning Commission recommended, and the staff recommended, let's wait, because quite frankly, there's not going to be any development there until there's more water, because there's not enough water to do a development right now. So.
That was
the-
my concern.
The
reading the
premature
comments.
until we get another line from, you
Right.
know,
But that'll
we
be-
got some issues. Now, they could start before, as long as there's the new
Right.
line coming and everything. So we don't want to stall the consideration of the project to get approvals. But it would seem that you could solve both problems by saying, hey, high density up to 22 units. Those are really for special areas of the city. Now, I don't want to suggest that I don't think that Sun River ought to share in the high density in the community, because it's unfair to say, I live in an R110 subdivision, and one block from me is apartments. And so we all have to share in that, because it's not fair to say one part of your city is going to have all the apartments in the city. I've lived in an apartment, so I don't think it's badly if that's all you can afford. There's good people who live in apartments. We should have some of that everywhere. Now, that's not the issue here. But the issue here is if you want to do a medium density project, wait till we approve this thing, and then you're on there.
So could we do something about that tonight?
Yeah, could we change the order?
We change things
Well,
all
if we
the time.
change the order, my question to you is, do they have to change the general plan to accommodate the medium density, high density residential?
And the answer would be yes. This was not an option that was available to the planning commission at
Right.
the time they held their hearings, so you'd have to bring it through. But it sounds like it's not an immediate, they could go through that process and it would not take too long to do that. Take it back through planning commission.
Because it still have to go to planning
That
commission.
new density was discussed in the planning commission. So it's not that it wasn't an option, okay? It was not passed at that point, but it was still discussed.
Well, they could have asked to table their item, have you approve it, and then it could have gone forward. Now, I'm not sure that they could take any action on the general plan amendment tonight, because they're asking for high density. This is medium, high density.
Why couldn't we are asking for high density.
Because then if you have high density, then you've got 22 units. We're not changing the ordinance regarding high density units. We're adding another alternative. So I guess my question is, if the general plan shows medium density in that particular area, what is medium density? Medium density is either now, it'd be low,
Up to
there's
10.
up to 10, but if you approve this tonight, then medium density could be considered 10 to 14.
It's medium high.
Medium high, but still medium. So
Medium high.
if you went back and approved the ordinance change, then came back and if you wanted to approve you still can't do it.